everybody, thanks so much for joining me. It's great to have you here as always. Today we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to be discussing the Too Faced holiday collections, basically their big three palette collections. Too Faced always does a good job, I think, with their themes for their holiday collections and just making it very consistent throughout all of the products they're putting out. So this year it's kind of a Christmas in Paris theme, and the three different parts of that I'll be talking about are La Petite Maison, and that is the $39 collection that's available only at Ulta. Then you've got Le Grand Chateau, and that is kind of a trio of palettes, and that's going to be available at Sephora, Ulta, and the Too Faced website. And then the Sephora exclusive is Le Grand Palais, and that is your largest palette. You've got several extras with that, and that one is $58. The outer boxes of all of these are very simple, very classy. I think they just look so pretty. It's the kind of thing that I don't know if I'd even feel the need to wrap these because they just look so pretty from the outside. And then when you take the actual makeup box out, you've got a couple of them that look exactly like their outer packaging, and then the Chateau actually looks like a little building. Here's what's interesting, aside from the little extras that come in a few of these, this is the total amount of makeup you're dealing with palette-wise out of all of these. I do like that they've got this gorgeous kind of outer packaging that could be kind of a display item, you know, something really cute to have out if you want to, but when it comes right down to it, you don't have to travel around with something that bulky, and the palettes themselves are just very thin and streamlined. The first one I'm going to focus on is La Petite Maison, and this is the one that is exclusively available at Ulta. Again, just a really beautiful little setup. When you open the box up, if you wanted to leave this open, you've got your palette sitting down below, a cute little like dress form. I love the illusion of a wrought iron staircase, and then a place for your Better Than Sex mascara. Once you open up the palette, you don't have any mirror on the inside, so just a heads up there. But you do have 12 eyeshadows on the inside, and it's going to be a mix of matte and shimmer. You do have some nice matte basics and Let It Snow, Reindeer, and Dreams down here, but everything else, you know, quite a bit of sheen going on here. You've got a couple of really deep dark shades. A couple of the colors that turned out quite a bit more sheer than I expected were Honey Pot, which I believe is a shade I've had in other palettes, and that one seemed a little light to me, and Pussycat is going to be a sheer pinky purple. Out of all of these collections, surprisingly, this is probably the one that I like the most of. Granted, it is the smallest of any of these sets. I do like most of what's in here. I think the shades are pretty. It's easy to work with. I think the quality is there for the most part, and seeing as the one somewhat colorful shade is pretty sheer, this is going to be something that the neutral lovers will enjoy. However, I've got to look at this and compare it to my Stardust palette by Vegas Nay, because it is the same amount of shadows, and I think a pretty similar size as well, and I definitely prefer the Stardust palette over this. I think there's just more variation in this palette. There's more consistent quality in this palette, and you know, if I had a choice, I would definitely go for this one, and it's not that much more expensive, and you get even more extras alongside it. And I talked much more about this in another video where I was comparing other palettes, so I'll link to that below if you want more info. And that Stardust palette, while not technically part of this Too Faced Christmas in Paris holiday collection, it is, I think, a very giftable item and something I really enjoy. This one, while it's a decent palette, the quality is like 90% there. Like I said, a couple of these shades like Honey Pot and Pussycat were a bit more sheer than I was expecting, but the mattes are great quality. That's something that I can say pretty much across the board for all of these Too Faced holiday palettes. Really great, consistent, buttery, creamy quality to their matte shadows. Bottom line, I think this could be a nice giftable item for the neutral shadow lover if you're really wanting to give something from this, you know, Paris collection. Maybe you've got somebody who collects and decorates with a lot of that theme. They may really like that. Now the next option, and a little more expensive, is Le Grand Chateau, and I've got to say this is my personal favorite on the packaging. I just think that is so cute. Don't be surprised if you see this hanging out in my background sometime soon. The top just comes off, and then the outside opens almost like just two doors opening, and then you can see on the inside you've got this cute little like what I would picture as a Paris apartment building overlooking the Eiffel Tower. You've got your Better Than Sex mascara in there, as well as 3 separate palettes. There is the little to and from, so this kind of reminds me of the way La Belle Carousel was last year. You know, it has those separate palettes that lift out, and you could give them all together to someone, or you could gift these individually. Each has a bow on them. The two from, like I said, they open up, no mirror on the inside. There are 6 shadows in each and a blush. The one in this particular one kind of looks like a bronzer. But just to show you all of these here side by side so you can get a feel for your full color scheme that you'll be getting. The pink palette, primarily light and mid-tone shimmery neutrals. This green palette is going to be your really classic neutrals. Half matte, half shimmer, very basic, but probably the most complete in terms of giving you a great light to dark range and just the balance of, you know, highly shimmery shades and matte shades that can create that contrast for you. And then this other one is your kind of smoky purpley palette, some very dark tones, a sheer purpley shade in here. This is actually the one I'm wearing today, and I was not really thrilled with it. This purple shade is quite sheer. It's like a purple with a bluish tone shimmer. I feel like I've seen this shade in Too Faced palettes like going back years, that this has shown up in Too Faced holiday palettes. This seems very familiar to me. Again, the mattes are great in all of these. There'll just be those certain kind of shimmery shades that don't quite measure up. The blushes that are in each of these palettes are not representative of Too Faced best blush work by any means. If you've tried those new little heart-shaped blushes that they have, and they actually have several of those that are part of a little kit that comes with some melted lip colors, those are really pigmented, just really outstanding blushes. And these seem extremely sheer, particularly the one called Très Fab, and that is the one that I'm wearing today. It's a really barely there color. It's a matte pink, and it just doesn't really do much. Mademoiselle, that's the one that's in the overall neutral palette. This shows up a little bit more. It's a little more pigmented, but again, it's nothing close to those heart-shaped ones that are out now. And then this bronzer here called Jolie, you know, it's fine. It's not a bad product, but it's just going to be a soft kind of shimmery bronze. But knowing that someone may be spending their money a certain way based on a recommendation I give, I want to give it to you as honest and as bluntly as I can. This palette, for example, pretty shimmery shades, but where's the matte? There's no real contrast to be able to create with that. So if like I took this as a little travel palette with me somewhere, I would feel it was incomplete. This one, like I said, the best balance because it is half matte, half shimmer, but it's very, very neutral. And I know I've been criticized a time or two when I critique a palette based on its uniqueness, and I'll say something like, well, I've got a ton of that in my collection, and people are like, of course you've got a ton of it. You've got loads and loads of makeup, but I've got to say, I know some of y'all out there have a buttload of makeup too, and you've probably got a matte cream, a matte light brown, a matte dark brown, shimmery bronze, shimmery brown, shimmery black. This is your very basic palette. That it is what it is. Maybe that's exactly what you want to give someone, or maybe if it's a matter of buying this for yourself, you might think, well, gosh, I've already got a lot of that kind of shade. This palette, honestly, if you're really into purple and you're really hoping this looks super purpley, it doesn't. You know, it's just a very soft purpley smoky look is what you end up with. I've got Rendezvous in the crease. I've got this on my lid, which shows up just barely there, and then a little bit of this shade in my outer corner and just on the lower lash line. Cuteness points, off the charts. This is freaking adorable, but I mean, I don't like this better than, say, that Stardust palette or my Lorac Mega Pro 2 or the Balm's new In the Balm of Your Hand palette. None of this stuff is beating that. Now finally, the largest palette, the most expensive product release for the holidays from Too Faced is the Grand Palais, and that one is the Sephora exclusive. It definitely is adorable. As you look at the presentation here, you've got just this cute little mannequin back there, little Sephora and Too Faced bags. You're getting the most extras here with the mini Better Than Sex mascara, the mini melted liquid lip color in the shade Peony. That's a really pretty kind of warm pink. Those show up very opaque on the lips. They're a fun texture to play with. If you haven't used that kind of thing, it would be, you know, something fun to have and experiment with. And also a Too Faced Shadow Insurance, which I think is really great to have a primer alongside shadows like this. Then your palette is actually 18 eyeshadows and 4 face colors. This would normally be the part of Too Faced holiday kits that I would really be like, yes, I love this. But I really started using it, swatching it, experimenting with these different colors, and I'm not that impressed. Matte colors are great. Like I said, Too Faced has done a great job with their mattes ever since their little like matte neutral palette, which I think is just the bomb. It's really, really nice, soft, pigmented quality there. They seem to have mastered that. But then in their holiday kits, they'll throw out some kind of brighter shades that really catch your eye to see them here, like Eiffel, Midnight in Paris. These shades like paint a beautiful picture of a palette for you, you know, to look at, but they're so flaky and shimmery, they do not apply very well at all. There is a buttload of shimmer in this palette. Now, I don't want to diminish how beautiful shades like Cobblestone, City Lights, Dreamlight, Belle Femme, Stiletto, Yule Log, those are all really nice shades. The blushes at the bottom, Stardust and Skyline, you know, they're very soft. They remind me of the quality of those blushes in these individual palettes, which, like I said, is not nearly as intense as their newer released individual blushes. The highlight is gorgeous. The highlight called Flush, I think that's really pretty. Has a little bit of a golden tone to it. I think it's beautiful. And they give you Sun Bunny. I do love me some Sun Bunny, so that's nice to see. Now, of these sort of like accent shades, as you might call them, down here in the bottom, I would say Party Dress, this hot pink, is probably the one that has the most color payoff. Kind of pretty, you know, if you wanted to pack that on, you would see that shade quite a bit more. But these other ones here in this bottom row, I'm really struggling with their flakiness. You're just not gonna get that kind of a look to show up on the lids. I've said this before, but just to reiterate, if it came right down to it and I had to choose, I would pick the Vegas Nay Stardust palette over all of this stuff. I also, like I said, my other kind of palette front runners currently as far as makeup goes for the holidays, loving that palette from the Balm, loving my Lorac Mega Pro 2. These are, I think, some of Too Faced's cutest stuff. I think it's really well thought out on the packaging to kind of boil the makeup part down to such a small thing, but still give you the cuteness in the presentation of the outer packaging. I think that's smart. I think it's adorable, but I don't think it's Too Faced's best quality makeup in all of these palettes, at least just not consistently. So I hope this video sorted some things out for you if you were trying to figure out what to do about these new holiday collections. I'm just trying to bring you my most objective opinion possible here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.